Thank you guys for tuning in. Hey, Dee. Great to see you.
Hi, great to see you.
hmm This is exciting.
Yeah,
I get to hang out with you.
have a connection.
So grateful that you're making time. I know little Bubba, you just said
Hey, Chandler.
grandma's taking him out for a walk, and super grateful that we could have a little bit of time together to share and to connect with our friends.
Yeah, people get to spend their whole mornings with you on Wednesday mornings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sweet.
hmm Thank you guys for joining in. We're super grateful to connect with you. And, we've been having friends reach out to us, asking us about relationships during this time. And Dhyana and I, it's a topic that we love to explore together, just to see how we can be more conscious in our own relationship, our own experiences supporting each other, to grow in our life, to grow toward a deeper love, a love toward a love without conditions, growing toward that. And people in the community were reaching out and just saying, hey, we would love to have a conversation about that. So this is really Deanna and I just kind of sharing little insights that we've had, but also really learning from you guys as well. So we want to, the comments that you have, the insights you have, reflections you have, questions that may come up as we're having a discussion, or even just to start off with, we want to connect with you guys. And that's really why we're on this platform, is to be able to connect with you and to be in a living dialogue of how we can be more conscious in our relationships.
Yeah, I remember like throughout our relationship, like we've always talked about like writing a book on relationships or making videos on relationships. But we're always like, no, like we haven't been in a relationship long enough yet. We haven't been in a relationship yet long enough yet. But I think like a lot of people have talked about with what's going on in the world right now, it's kind of pushing people like just don't wait, And so we've just felt like anybody who's in a relationship has living wisdom of how to be in a relationship, and I'm just so grateful to get to come on here and explore, how to be in a relationship that's deeply satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
How to be in a relationship with somebody and be that somebody that your person really wants to spend time with and loves to connect with. And I think last week we talked a lot about commitment. Vera says the 3 C's that are really necessary for a growing, thriving, dynamic relationship. And the first one is commitment. We explored last week. I don't know if that one was recorded. A lot of people have written me and asked if it was recorded. And so
Yeah.
we'll let you know where to find that one. But this week we're going to talk about communication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, communication is so powerful. I know Vera probably has a whole setup of how to we talked for like a few minutes before this live, and I was like, wait, what are we going to talk about? How are we going to introduce it? And the little guy came in and had to eat, and so we're like, we'll just have a conversation.
Yeah, and it was something that we kind of launched off last week. It was it's a conversation I felt like we could talk about every day for the rest of our lives. We were talking about commitment, but we were talking about what we're committing to. What's the vision for our life? What is it that we're seeking more than anything else in our life? And how can we start to share that in our relationship? And how can we, even if we don't share the exact same goal, how can we support each other toward those higher aspirations or that deeper meaning and purpose in our life? And so what are we committing to? And how can we really start to share that in our relationship? And so, okay, now we talked about that for a bit. And then, okay, now it comes into this living dialogue, right? We've created some clarity about what's really important in our life, or we're in the process of creating that clarity, and will continue to be. And what makes us tick? What fulfills us? What's most meaningful to us in our life? And what conscious communication, the tools for it then facilitate, is for us to be in a living dialogue with our friends, with our partners, with the people that we interact with and connect with, to be able to share what's most important to us, and to be able to, at any given moment in time, by knowing what's most important, that's going to indicate how we respond. That's going to indicate how we show up in that circumstance, how we show up in that exchange with our friend or our partner, whoever it is.
Yeah.
So being able to really keep that clear. It's like, for instance, you know, I was talking with my friend Radhika. It's like if love is really our goal, if love is really truly our goal, if that's what we're looking for, and we go into every conversation and we go into every experience with that in our consciousness, it will affect how we respond, even in very provoking situations or even very challenging situations. It will help us to respond with love. And
Yeah.
so that's just a little, a very kind of small example of having clarity about what's really most meaningful, what's really most important, and then bringing that into a living dialogue that starts to filter through my consciousness into my exchanges. And
Yeah, and
so,
it seems like that also lays the ground of like commitment being the foundation.
mhm,
Because when you're committed to love, like to discovering a deeper love than, you know, the circumstance, the mood, the feeling of love,
mhm,
then when stuff comes up, which it will, you know, at some point in relationship, stuff comes up, and you know,
mhm,
relationship is really meant to help us heal those parts of us that either feel unworthy, you know, unable to love. And so
mhm.
as these things come up, oh man, Bud's Vera's super good at this. He's a skilled communicator, and I feel like to have a skilled communicator, like communication, it's so powerful. It's something that we think that we just know how to do because we can talk. But you know, conscious communication, it's a skill that if you want to be in a conscious, growing, thriving, deepening relationship, um, you have to know how to communicate well. And there
Mhm,
are skills, there are books, there are programs. There's Vera, who's going to share a lot about his incredible skills that I've learned through him.
mhm,
Um, but how to use everything that comes up in relationship as an opportunity to grow and to
mhm,
deepen,
mhm.
and to come back to a place of love. And yeah, there's so many practices that I hope, Vera, you can share a few with everybody listening today, so that we can start practicing.
I'm
And
appreciating. Yeah, B, you're setting me up. It's a big topic. I love it. I love what you're talking about. You know, in regards to it being the space where transformation takes place. It's not just like, oh, cool, I got some cool tips, or I got some cool insights of how I can be a more effective communicator in my life, but that it's actually a catalyst for transformation.
mhm,
That conscious communication, transformative communication, it's a catalyst for all of the stuff, all the crap that we have inside of ourselves, all of the, whatever the limiting beliefs that we may carry, whatever the conditioning that we may carry that's covering our pure self, right? Going in with that premise of bhakti, the premise of so many spiritual traditions, that I'm a pure spiritual being. Like, then my nature, my essence is completely lovable, is beautiful, is epic, is happy, is full of wisdom, right? Is full of charisma and full of joy. That's who I am.
and so is this other person
And so is this other person.
who might be acting a fool.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly. And so then, okay, now our exchange, it becomes either something that validates that spiritual truth, or it becomes something that in my own consciousness, I'm projecting and I'm covering my partner or my friend, or my own experience. They're doing the same thing back and forth. And so then we're reflecting the conditioning, we're reflecting the dysfunction, we're reflecting the hurt, the pain, all of that, all the covering of our pure self. And so our communication becomes this opportunity for being able to hold space for that pure spiritual truth, that pure spiritual being, even when it's super uncomfortable, even when it's something that our conditioning, our ego just wants to respond. It has something to say, it has something to prove, has something to protect, you know? Or it's like this real softening of like, wow, all this person is looking for is love. And right now I have an opportunity through the way I behave with them to remind them that they are lovable, to remind
Yeah,
them that they are a beautiful spiritual being. And
yeah.
so that is, you know, you're reminding me of that opportunity right now as you're sharing that, Dee. It's just that, either we're reflecting the conditioning, either we are filtering our experience of somebody through our conditioning, and we're
It's
projecting that onto them.
two egos that are just clashing,
Totally.
and then,
Totally.
but when somebody's acting out or not moving from that deep place of, empathy, compassion, connection, if the other person knows that, really all this person wants is to be understood. And once they feel understood, they can stop putting on this show to try to get you to understand them. They can soften. And I remember when I had this realization that, like, understand, it means to stand under or support somebody, and I just think that's so beautiful. And, if I'm like acting in a certain way, and then you're just like, like I give the example sometimes, if you're late coming home from work, you told me you'd be home at 5, and I've been with the baby all day, and I'm just like,
guilty.
It's like 5:10, 5:15, 5:20, 5:30. So by the time you finally get home, I'm just like I'm frustrated, I'm triggered. And so, like, first, like, if I'm in a place where I can take a deep breath, like become present, like greet you, like knowing, okay, like there must have been something really important he was doing. Otherwise he wouldn't be late, because I know he's a man of integrity. And if I can greet you with love and understanding, and then also express like, hey, like it was really hard to just like, be waiting and waiting and waiting, and like expecting you to come home and you're not here. And it just felt really, really frustrating. Like that would be kind of an ideal situation. And then if Vira's conscious, rather than being like, well, don't you understand? Like, I'm busy. I have things to do. Do you not think that like other things are important as well? If he can, take a deep breath and not feel the need to defend himself and say, wow, like I totally get how that could have been really frustrating. Next time I'll do it differently. That's like an ideal situation. But like rewind, if I'm really frustrated, he comes home and I'm just like totally triggered. What I do when I'm triggered is I close down. I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to look at him. And then if me being triggered triggers him, then it's just two triggered people that you're just not going anywhere. And so there has to be at least one person, ideally it's two, like in a first situation, but at least one person who can take a deep breath and be willing to be the conscious communicator, that, Vera comes home, I'm really frustrated and triggered. And, he takes a deep breath and is like, wow, I can really tell that you're frustrated and triggered. And, and as soon as I feel understood, like, wow, he sees me, he understands why I'm feeling this way, then I can relax and we can actually have a conversation. I was going to say conversate. I don't know if that's a word. Converse.
We can conversate, babe. Let's do it.
And so there always has to be at least one person that's willing to hold space, to reflect, to listen, to understand, stand under and support this other person as they go through the process. And then ideally that other person also knows they have to come out of that triggered place, come back to a place of being connected and compassionate, and then understand or support the other person in that process. So then we grow together. We come to an understanding that allows us to be in a more dynamic and conscious process of relationship. It's not just like, he was late, now he's always going to be late, and I'm always going to expect him to be late, and I'm always going to be upset even if he's 1 minute late. It's like no, like we come together and we grow together, and so that every experience is brand new. And our past, processes don't have to come up in every new process, because we've actually grown from the experiences.
Super beautiful, Dee. And I love what you are. Yeah, now Shin, my eyes are googly. It's true. I love Dhyana. I love her. I'm seeing some comments coming in. How do you keep space? If the pattern keeps continuing, the promises seem to be empty.
Yeah.
And then limiting beliefs. How do you talk? Can you talk about that? And right, one person has to be the conscious communicator. I'm appreciating the comments, questions you guys are bringing in right now. We're going to try to touch on as much of it as we can. And if we can't touch on all of it today, then it'll become fuel for our next conversation. And I think, the first one, the limiting beliefs, is that, what you're talking about, Dhyana, is like, it's like if you are emotionally attached, right? It's like, which is like that limiting belief that like, you're not lovable, like you're not lovable. So of course, I'm showing up late. Of course he doesn't respect me. Of course he doesn't honor me, because like he doesn't really care about me. He's not really a man of his word or of his integrity. If it comes with like that emotional sort of like, this means something about me, or this means something about him, like it has that intense emotional attachment connected to it, that's where we're pausing and we're just recognizing, okay, this is the first step in our communication, is like, what's that inner dialogue? Like, what's going on right now? Because if I'm feeling like, this guy is an a-hole, right? I'm an a-hole because I'm not showing up. I showed up 10 minutes later, 15 minutes late. Your ability to say, hey, Vera, like you told me you were going to be here at 5. You weren't here at 5. Like, that just, it doesn't feel good. Like it feels out of integrity. Can we work on that? Is that something that you're willing to work on with me? Right. It provides an opportunity for a dialogue. Whereas if I show up and that emotional trigger is burning inside, you're not going to look at me. Right. It's like, I'm going to walk in the door and you're going to walk out the door. You're like, peace, dude. Here's the kid. It's like, it's going to be this really, a missed opportunity for you communicating an expectation or a broken expectation, and me having an opportunity to say, hey, do I want to increase my level of integrity? Do I want to actually show up and be more conscious? Or can I tell you, actually, there was a real emergency that was happening, and then we let that dialogue unfold. And so that first step of the communication is, okay, what belief do I have about this circumstance? What emotion is charging me right now? It's either going to allow for me, if I'm able to process that and recognize that is my own stuff coming up around this situation, and I'm able to sit with that, I'm able to process it a little bit so that I can actually just clearly communicate an expectation, clearly communicate, hey, like this is what came up for me, like in a responsible way.
Yeah, and it's not easy. And somebody asked, does it take practice? It takes a lot of practice. Like I remember when me and Vera first got together, I was just coming out of a relationship. I talked about it a little bit last week, but where, oops, I don't know if you can still see me. Yeah, there you go. I just came out of a relationship where there was a lot of dishonesty, and he had cheated on me. And so I remember, when Vera was out seeing clients, there was always this little part of me that's like, what is he doing? Anytime he was on his phone, there was this like part of me that was fearful. And, if I was really unconscious, I would totally project onto him. I would totally start not trusting him. If he was late coming over, I would just, be triggered and thinking, because of my past experiences, he must have been with somebody else. And so, like, it's okay to get triggered. I mean, ideally we come to a place where like we can really speak and act from a non-triggered. You said something, this is what happened, it didn't line up. How can we grow from this? Like, eventually it'd be great to come to that place when there's a lot of deep, deep trust that can happen. But I think it's also important to be able to acknowledge when you're triggered, not just pretend that, it's all good. It's okay. Like, oh, it's just me. It's just my past. It's just my fears, to be able to communicate like, hey, because of my past experiences, I'm noticing a lot of fear coming up, around your actions. And I can't tell whether it's something that you're doing that's out of alignment, or if it's like really just my past fears being projected onto this situation. So can you be with me as we explore this together?
It's amazing, Dhyana, because it's that type of communication that then facilitates for the other person to respond with compassion. It's like using
responsibility.
Yeah, it's using those I terms. It's like, if I'm saying you were late, you made me feel this way. We're coming in with that type of intense emotional charge and trigger. It takes a very, very conscious person to breathe through that, to see, okay, my partner's feeling hurt right now. My partner's calling out for love right now. My partner's triggered right now. It takes a lot of compassion. It takes a lot of grace. It takes a lot of really, feeling confident in ourselves,
I just thinking about so many times where it's like, it's really hard to hold space right now.
Yeah, totally. Right, right. Like it's like it can really test like the
Yeah.
deepest part of ourself, and that's that it's simultaneously so it's the most intense thing in our life to hold space, like to feel that we're not being seen, to feel that we're being judged, to feel that like our partner doesn't understand us. And so then the way they're communicating to us, it's like, that's not me. That's not what happened. Like, I've got to prove myself. I've got to like tell her that she's wrong. I've got to tell her why I'm right. And it's like, whoa, no, like I know myself. I know myself. I know
Yeah.
that I love her. I know that I want her to feel cared for. I know that I want her to I know that as quickly as possible, I want to help us to return to a safe space of exploring what's possible in our relationship and what's a possibility in this dialogue that actually helps us to grow closer together. And it's like, it's intense as hell sometimes. But if that's the goal, to really grow and to really connect and to really see that every single trigger that comes up, like I'm taking 100% responsibility for my own stuff. I'm taking 100% responsibility for my own inner dialogue, for the limiting beliefs and the triggers that come up, and I'm going to be with those. I'm going to recognize those are mine. And then authentically, I can communicate with my partner. I'm really triggered right now. I'm really having a difficulty not wanting to lash out at you right now. I feel so angry at you right now, and then it's like, wow, how much responsibility is there? I'm talking about my feelings. I'm talking about my experience. I'm not projecting it. I'm not blaming it on the other person. It makes it so much easier for the other person to then hold that space and to then become an opportunity for growth and transformation take place. And so we all have our crap, every single one of us. And and it's something that you talk about so often, Dhyana, is like our life is painted by our past. Our life is painted by that. Like, it takes an immense amount of compassion, and relationship is really this opportunity for the dialogue of really starting to help each other to unlock those limiting beliefs and to unlock that conditioning and to release some of those stifling views, self views that we have, that we then project onto the world and project onto our relationships around us, give us the opportunity to really heal and to really grow. So,
Yeah, and really to live consciously,
mm-hmm,
to instead of just reacting to situations,
mm-hmm,
to be able to take a deep breath and respond from a more present, loving, compassionate place.
mm-hmm,
And again, like, it takes practice, but anything we practice, we
mm-hmm,
begin to cultivate, and it does become easier and easier
mm-hmm,
until, a relationship, it's like you just know how to communicate,
mm-hmm,
and then you're tested, and then, you can take it to the next level. Every time it's like an opportunity. That's what they say, is that, we get an opportunity to practice something when we're challenged to live it.
mm-hmm,
It's not like we just all of a sudden become something, but it's in those times where it's, when everything's going really well and it's all really easy and somebody's just listening to everything you say, and, then it's all good. But then when when there's that pushback, when there's that challenge, when it's not easy, that's when we really get to practice taking our communication to the next level. And communication, it also means our ability to really listen.
mm-hmm,
It's not only how we speak, but it's how we hold space and listen. And there's something so powerful. Vera oftentimes says that our presence, it's the greatest healing gift that we can offer each other.
mm-hmm,
Like total presence without the need to fix or change or
mm-hmm,
me thinking that I'm healing you. It's literally just holding space of presence, of
mm-hmm,
unconditional positive regard, holding somebody in that space. Like
mm-hmm,
Vera was saying in the beginning, like seeing the soul within them, the purity that is beyond, all the fears, the stories, the past conditions and experiences, like the pure soul that is untouched by all of that, and just
mm-hmm,
holding space. And then what happens is, that is when we heal. That
mm-hmm,
is when the layers start coming off.
mm-hmm,
That is when transformation happens.
mm-hmm.
Chandler asked a really good question a little while ago about how, it was when I was giving the example of like you coming home late, and then us, communicating well and having an agreement that, like, okay, like that won't happen again. But what if somebody keeps coming home late even after having, those conversations? So if somebody's not following through with with their word? How do you communicate, or how do you navigate that situation?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think that it's, you know, again, it kind of comes back to commitment. You know, it really comes back to recognizing that more than keeping an agreement, you know, it's not like the goal is not to just like keep a bunch of agreements just because, you know, it's like
Mm,
it's through communication, right? It's like, okay, when I say something, I say, I will do this. I will be home at 5 o'clock, you know, and then I do it, it builds trust. It's a practical thing. It's just the way what it does for our psychology, what it does for our heart. I now trust this person more, so that now when I'm in an experience where it's really uncomfortable, like there's an uncomfortable part of myself that's coming out, I'm not going to hide it from my partner. I'm going to be able to share that more vulnerably because I trust that they're going to show up. I trust it that much more. And so every single communication is either building trust or it's breaking it down.
mm,
It's either building love or it's testing it, and in some ways it's breaking it down. And
yeah.
so when we're able to look at every single form of our communication as an opportunity to deepen love and to deepen connection and to build trust and to build toward a vision where we really more and more we're trusting this person with the most vulnerable parts of ourselves, you know, then every single opportunity, every agreement is building on that. And so
I really love that. It's like a bank account almost.
mm,
Where, like, of course we don't want to measure in a way, but I just noticed from my experience, like when you're really showing up, when you're following through with your word, like day after day, time after time, and then one day you slip, it's like, for me, it's like not a big deal, because like you've been showing up a lot and I trust you. Like I trust, that there was a really good reason.
mhm,
But if it's day after day and time after time where it's like you're not showing up, you're slipping up, you're, this or that, then it's harder to have that ground of
mhm,
like trust. It's
mhm,
like I start to doubt more.
mhm,
And so I love how you said how it's not about the little agreements. It's about showing up and building trust. It's like
mhm,
depositing into that bank account so this other person can feel that you're committed, can
mhm.
feel that you're serious about growing in relationship. And I think that's
Yeah,
really such a big thing. Like
yeah,
if somebody keeps breaking agreements, doesn't follow through over and over again, it's like they might say that they're committed, to growth, but it's like, again, actions speak louder than words.
mhm,
And it's like, do they need more support? Like, what do they need? Maybe you can show up for them in that way and say, like, how can I help you um, show up more? Because maybe they have limiting beliefs or stories or past experiences that are for some reason making them act like that. And so it's so multidimensional, actually. But yeah, ultimately, how can we show up and support each other? And if somebody's just not willing to follow through time and time again, yeah, it's an interesting process.
mhm. Yeah, I'm appreciating you just, you know, as you're sharing it is I think that we all to some degree are coming in. It's very rare that somebody's coming in with just this really unconditional level of trust, you know? Like we've had our hearts broken or we've seen our parents separate or we've seen relationships break up around us. Like we've seen all the intensity of trust being broken, you know. And so it's this very fragile thing that it really takes time to develop in most of our relationships, and it's something that's kind of easily triggers a lot of fear. It easily triggers, like even a small broken agreement can trigger like a very deep trauma or a very deep fear of somebody being untrustworthy, and then therefore us not feeling safe with them, and therefore, you know, we're no longer vulnerable, so we're no longer exchanging and being authentic and genuine in our relationship. And so it's something that you know, if somebody like you're sharing, you know, if somebody's really not showing up, you know, again and again and again, it's like, are we actually on the same page with what we're looking for in our relationship, or do we recognize actually the effect of our actions and how, you know, following through with our word is such a trust building experience, or something that's deteriorating trust, you know. And I think if we recognize that, then it's, you know, yeah, then there's so many dimensions of it, right? But if we recognize that and we're committed to that, we will follow through, you know. And commitment is the beginning of relationship.
Totally.
And
And
if we
that's why
can't,
it's like we said so many times, it's the foundation. It's like becoming clear with what are we committed to? Like that is what builds the foundation of relationship. Because me and Veer, it's like we never said like we're just committed to each other no matter what. It's like no, we're committed to a process together. And that means that we both show up in a certain way and we keep practicing showing up in a certain way. And like that's what we're committed to together. And so I think I love how, if somebody's not showing up, then it's like, hey, we have that conversation again. Like, what are we committed to? What are we doing in this relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're not learning how to love each other in deeper ways, like, what are we doing? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why are we even in this relationship? Like,
Mm-hmm.
is it just convenient? Is it just comfortable?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of situations can be convenient and comfortable, but if we want dynamically growing spiritual relationships, then we have to be able to have these conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and come back to that base level. What are we committed to? And how are our actions either facilitating that or not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just coming back, and I think that can allow us each to take responsibility. It's like, again, we come back to like, oh yeah, like that's what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, otherwise what are we doing in relationship?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what are we actually committing to? And I love it. Yeah, there's so much to be spoken about. When I was putting some thoughts down, I put some practical thoughts down on it, and I was also just seeing that it's such a deep subject. It's such a deep and wide subject, and there's such subtle application to it, And so there's some really basic principles. There's something that I was saying is like, a nice practice that if every one of us practice this in every one of our dialogues in regards to becoming better listeners. I know for myself, like, working on becoming a better listener has been the most transformative. Um, it's been the most transformative element of relationship for me, of communication for me. And so it's something that, okay, what can I do? How can I speak better? How can I speak in such a way that's more responsible? How can I, okay, all of that's there. That's gonna be a work in progress. And then, okay, what can I do to listen? And the premise with this is that if I show up 100% with where my partner's at, if my partner's angry, if my partner's sad, if my partner's feeling lethargic, if my partner's feeling depressed, if my partner's feeling disconnected or whatever is going on, right? Or my partner's feeling happy, my partner's feeling joyful, whatever the experience my partner is having, me showing up 100% to just be with them in that experience, keeping in mind that their potential is unlimited, that they are a pure spiritual being that is loved by their higher power, that is purely lovable, right? That's the ultimate reality. And I'm holding space for that. Then in that exchange, just in that presence, all the transformation, all the energy, just like a tree that's getting sunshine, water, nutrients, has earth, just like a tree and a plant that's in the right environment, that presence is providing the environment for transformation to take place. I don't have to teleport my partner to where I think they need to be. I don't need to fix them. I don't need to change them. I'm not the one that's going to do that. That transformation is going to take place within their own heart, in their relationship with the divine, the relationship with their higher power, and to the degree that they're ready to submit themselves to that process of transformation, that transformation is going to take place. And by me showing up with empathy, by me showing up 100% as a listener, holding space for them, I'm providing all that, the perfect, ripe environment for that transformation to start to take place. And so this is what we're looking at is, how can I communicate in such a way? How can I listen in such a way? My intention is to bring the diamond self out of this person. My intention is to bring the compassion, the energy, the beauty, the love, the connection, to help bring that out of their heart just by being present with them, just by listening to them with my full heart, my full energy. And so I'm going in with this premise, I'm going in with this energy. And then practically, what we're talking about is I'm going to sit down with my partner. I'm going to sit down with my partner with warmth. All my shit, I am putting it aside. All my crap, I'm putting it aside. I'm going in here with this premise, with this intention to help to bring out the best in them. In order for me to do that, I'm going to sit down with them. I'm exuding warmth. I'm not sentimental in it, but I'm showing that I care just with my energy. I'm here. It's like a warm embrace without hugging them, without touching them. Like, I'm there. I'm with you. I'm holding you, my beloved. I'm holding you in this moment right now. You are beautiful. You are that diamond self. It's all inside. It's all happening inside, right? I'm with you 100%. I'm breathing with you. I'm creating a safe space for you. Sit up with a straight posture, with a straight spine. Sit up with an open posture, right? My arms aren't closed. I'm not, shielding myself, right? My posture is open. I'm looking at them deeply in their eyes. I'm showing them that I see you. I'm with you, right? And then empathy means what we we're talking about just earlier. It means showing up 100% with where somebody is at. No matter what's going on in their life, I'm showing up 100% to just be with them in their pain, be with them in their experience, holding space for that pure spiritual diamond self. I'm still holding space for them. I'm not letting go of that. And I'm there as a listener, right? And then my genuineness, as they're speaking, as they're sharing, I'm simply reflecting back. Dhyana sharing, it makes me so angry when you come in 15, 20 minutes, it makes me, I feel like you don't care about me. And it's like, babe, so I'm reflecting back. I could see like, hey, I broke an agreement, and that makes you feel like I don't care about you. I'm just reflecting. I'm just a mirror of her experience, of what's taking place right now, with nothing more, with that warmth, with that genuineness, with that empathy, just a mirror reflecting back what her experience is.
And what the reflecting does is it allows me to know that he actually understands.
Mm-hmm.
If you say, wow, you seem really angry, I could be like, well, actually, no, I'm not angry. I just feel disrespected.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, okay, like, I get it. You feel like I don't respect you when I come home late. And so it helps to clarify like what I feel, as well as help me feel like he really understands. He really gets it. So I can start putting my armor down and trying to prove to him why it's so frustrating, or it's so, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so when I really feel like he understands, I can begin to soften.
Yeah, and as a listener, whoever is in that space, whoever may be in that triggered space, or whatever the experience is, as a listener, that by listening and by reflecting, I'm telling that person that they're valuable, that I care about them, that right now, like, way more important than me being right is that they know I love them. And that it communicates all of that when we're showing up with that warmth. We're open to the experience. We're actually expressing empathy. We're showing up in that empathic way. And we're being genuine. We're being real. We're with them in that experience. And so it's something that it actually provides the environment for that transformation to take place. And I love what you're talking about. I mean, so many relationships. And I was thinking of an experience that I was having with a couple. We were coaching through an intense experience. Was that we weren't even able to. We weren't for years. The armor would not come down, and because the armor wouldn't come down, right? The weapons were out, right? It's like, now I'm protecting myself. I have my armor on, right? Because I think you're here, you're going to hurt me. So now I've got to have my weapons out, and I'm going to attack you because I feel like you're attacking me. So now I'm going to attack you back. It's like when somebody can hold space, when somebody can pause and actually be there and really listen to the other person, like you were saying, that armor comes down. Now we're not trying to prove who's right. We're not trying to prove who's wrong. We're trying to see, how can this become an experience where love is starting to flow and where I'm starting to grow, because it's so much more important that you feel loved than I feel right. So much more important that you feel loved than I feel right in this situation, And so those are a few just super basic,
I
little
have a question.
thoughts. Yeah.
Somebody wrote me about this, and I also saw a similar question today about how, like, if you've been in a committed relationship, whether it's a couple months or a couple years, you're wanting to grow, into spiritual life and conscious communication and dynamic, loving relationship, but either the partner is like a lot more internal or maybe not interested. I feel like a lot of this, it's easier, obviously, to practice when two partners are like, yeah, let's do it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And or it's easier to practice when you're not yet in a relationship, but then you know, like, okay, this is what I'm looking for, is somebody who is interested in growing together. But if you've been in a relationship where you're committed, there's a lot of love and care there.
Mm-hmm.
um there is commitment, but you don't see that this other person would be willing to kind of take the relationship to the next level like this.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do, because you might not want to leave the relationship either,
Mm-hmm.
um, because there is a lot of love and care and connection.
Mm-hmm.
um, so what would be your suggestion in that case?
Yeah, it's such a, with communication, with relationships, it's so individual. It's so individual. I mean, that a response to that is just really, it's based on, yeah, it's based on where both people are at, and really having a clear kind of a clear picture of that, and having been in a process where, that is becoming more and more clear, and so I would respond generally to it, to this person, whoever's asking for that, is that just remembering, like, what do we have that's within our control? What in the world, what in my life is actually within my control? And if I look at that, and I'm really honest with that question, when I ask myself that question, what is in my control? Is my perspective, right? The way I see the world, the way I show up every single day in my own life, I have some level of control over that. The way that somebody responds to my love, the way that somebody responds to whatever it is in my life, the way that my external environment responds, like, I know that's not in my control. Just the honest assessment of that, I can honestly just let go, and recognize that there are some things that are out of my control. And so I think in a relationship, I think we have the opportunity where it really comes back to, what are we committing to? Is is this honest and authentic dialogue? If sharing a spiritual path with our partner, really, that's like eating us alive to not have that, and our partner is just totally not interested in spiritual life. It's totally not what they don't even support us. They think it's just a bunch of hoopla, right? If it's like antagonistic, it's like, for us to live our vision, and for us to live in alignment with what's most important and most dynamic in my life, it's literally like it's causing pain to my partner, and they're becoming antagonistic toward me. Okay, like that's a very, very challenging situation, and that takes a real honest sort of dialogue. And if it's not the case that somebody's willing to support us, and we're willing to support them in their vision in life, we're moving apart from each other whether we're together or not. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter. We're moving apart from each other whether we're sitting in the same building, we're sitting in the same house, we're sleeping in the same bed. The ship is going in two different directions. We're gradually drifting apart from each other. And so at some point, whether it's conscious or it's unconscious, we've got to be able to see, like, are we actually building a life together? And like we talked about before, like, that does not mean that I'm sharing the exact same vision of of life with my partner. It doesn't mean that necessarily, but there is support, right? There's care. We're bringing energy into our partner's life to support them and what's most important. And that can't be antagonistic, right? What's most important for us individually can't create like a battle. If, like, what's most important for me is to cause harm to people, and what's most important for me is to, like, be nonviolent, that's going to be a major clash. We're going to be at battle with each other just to live our authentic vision, and to be in touch with meaning and purpose in our life. So that's a big conversation, and is something that I always, is for us to have support, for us to have counsel, for us to have coaching around those type of, they can be, they're very individual, and for us to have that type of support in and around that, I'm just speaking generally to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of there's a lot of opportunity, even if we don't share the exact same vision, but our values and the principles of the ways that we relate in our life are aligned. We could live a beautiful life. There's so many people in our community that they have different religious faiths or different, spiritual beliefs, but the principles, the underpinning of it is that they're living for growth. They're living for transformation. They're living for a deeper connection with a higher power. And that may have different names and different forms and different practices, but the principles that are underpinning it, the principles and values underpinning it, are really supportive of each other. So that was a little something on it,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
general on it.
Somebody asked for some book recommendations, and there's this one book that Vera constantly comes back to that I literally feel like he read it when we first got together. I think probably the first or second year we were together, he read this book, and I think it was such a game changer in our relationship. It's called Relationships That Work by David Wolfe. Will teach you so many amazing skills and how to communicate, how to hold space,
Mm-hmm.
how to listen,
Mm-hmm.
and is a real relationship game changer. So I highly suggest you read it. Read it with your partner. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know about gift it to your partner because that's a little, a little passive aggressive.
Well, yeah, right. It's like, where's it coming from, right? Am I trying to change them, or do I really genuinely believe it's something super supportive? And I love it. It's like, when we're looking at how to change our partners, it's like, man, like, let's really change ourselves. Like, I found in just listening with friends and with in Dhyana's in my relationship, like, becoming a better listener has been so transformative for our relationship. And naturally, she's an amazing listener, right? She didn't have to read a book, or we just started getting into that dialogue and seeing how powerful and effective and how good it felt. And so whoever chooses to kind of start first and really start to work on their heart and really just bring a more pure, more loving heart to the relationship, it's powerful. We can have a transformative effect on our partners with how we love them, with how we show up, and how the presence that we provide to them through our love. It's transformational. And so share it with them from that loving place. If you feel inspired. And I guess something in closing today, we didn't really set like a time for our IG live or our podcast, but we kind of said like, hey, let's keep it to like 30 to 45 minutes kind of max. And so we're just over 45 minutes now. And so how am I showing up? There's an acronym. It's WEG, W-E-G. So how am I showing up in all my conversations, in all my relationships as a listener? First, I'm a listener because I know that through that, it builds trust. Through being a listener, it builds trust with that person. They're going to put the armor down. They're going to put the weapons down. It's going to be much less likely that it's going to escalate and turn into an argument and turn into this battle and this fight for who's right, the battle of the false ego, the battle of the wounds and the pain and the triggers and the conditioning. It's going to be a space where we're actually starting to heal and to let that love in. So WEG, I'm showing up with warmth, I'm showing up with empathy, and I'm showing up with genuineness to see that this is a transformative experience, not just for my partner, but it's a transformative experience for myself as the listener. I'm letting go of that conditioning. I'm letting go of the need for validation. I'm validating myself by holding space, that I am a lover, that I am a pure spiritual being that has an unlimited capacity to love in this situation. And then the next thing is I'm not going to present roadblocks. I'm not going to come in and try to tell my partner how to live their life. I'm not going to come in as the instructor, as the fixer, as the person who knows everything, as the person that has to prove themselves, as a person that has to bring in philosophy and spiritually bypass. And, I'm going to be with them. I'm not going to bring in roadblocks. I'm just going to be with them as a listener. And this is just our first little step in building that trust. And so it's little closing. Dee, anything you want to share just in closing up our time together?
I think just thank you so much to all of you who have joined and kind of stayed with us throughout this last 45 minutes. It's so joyful to get to, like, me and Vera don't get to talk much right now without little guy around. And so it's beautiful to get to come together and have meaningful conversations, not only with us, but with so many people that are, wanting to live deeper lives, more satisfying relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We love this topic, so much. We love, there's nothing that we love more than serving people and, helping people live a more satisfying life. And it's something that we're constantly working on together, which is also, I think, why it feels like such a joy to get to share it.
Mm-hmm.
And Hillary, I'm in Florida right now with our little baby, and Vera's in New York City at the Bhakti Center. holding down the ship. Amazing, amazing leader.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and it's really, we want it to be a living dialogue. We're exploring it, something on communication that I'm excited to do. If you guys are interested in it, you can share your comments and your feedback, but to actually go through a process of developing effective communication tools, and really go through kind of like the real life scenarios and kind of coaching through those, and being together in those spaces, and holding space, kind of just learn, like getting comfortable with those tools of holding space and also communicating really responsibly. And so if that's something you guys are interested in, it's something that we're happy to do an online course for something like that. And there's a lot of great stuff we can do together in that way. So if you guys you're into
What's
it.
What's our topic next week, Vera?
Our topic next week is really, and I'm seeing it all kind of weaves together, but we had said, community, that relationship takes having clear commitment and clear vision. It takes real effective dialogue, taking responsibility personally for the inner dialogue, and then how that affects us when we share. Also being great listeners and being responsible how we share. And so communication, commitment, communication, and community is the third one. So we'll talk about how the other relationships in our life really support our primary relationships, our friends, our teachers, our guides, our coaches, our counselors, etc. That they're an essential part of us really living dynamic and fulfilling relationships.
Beautiful. And please DM me personally if you do have any questions that we can address either individually or live together, because I'm sure whatever one person is going through in a relationship, a lot of other people are also going through. So we're not in this alone. We're all in this together. So please reach out. Love
you so much, Dhyana. Thank you for being such a space holder for me, and helping me to transform every single day through your relationship. I love you, and so grateful for everyone tuning in.
Yeah. Bye, everybody. Have a beautiful Wednesday, a beautiful week. Until next time.
See you guys. Take care. Love you, babe.
What do you think?
I'm gonna.
So fun.